Well, the purpose of my visit here to Nellis is not unlike any other visit that I do around the Joint Force, and that's to come here and check on the airmen here that are doing an important mission as part of the Warfare Center here, but more importantly, you know, what we're doing with the red flag exercise that's currently going on. Well, I think as an enlisted person, an airman, enlisted airman that's a part of the red flag exercise, they get to see the big picture of what we're trying to do and why this kind of exercise is important. You know, if you look at the current and future battlefield, we are going to fight joint and we're going to fight multinational in anything we do. So the more we have exercises at red flag that allow airmen to grow and develop in the joint and multinational environment, the better we'll be prepared when we have to execute it for real. First of all, readiness is the number one thing that is on the minds of everybody in Washington, D.C. And one of the things I look at as I go out and get the pulse of the Joint Force for the Chairman and the Secretary of Defense. And not only readiness in terms of do we have the right capabilities and requirements that we need to deter aggression or assure our allies or to defeat a threat, but more importantly from a personal readiness. Do we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen that are physically, mentally, emotionally, technically, and tactically fit to accomplish their mission and be prepared to execute their mission on what could be the worst day of their lives, whether that's on board a ship out at sea where there's a fire in the engine room or locked in combat in a foreign land. Whatever that is, that's the key thing. The other thing I look at is how are our men and women adapting to environments that they're operating in, and do we have the right authorities? Do we have the right level of support wherever that may be? Although traditionally we've been in the Central Command area of operation, now around the world we have 225,000 service members operating in about 178 countries. And if you look, there's only 196 countries in the world. To have a U.S. presence in 178 of them is huge, and no one else has that kind of global commitment. So I make sure that what we're doing at the strategic level makes sense to the men and women that have to execute the mission on the ground, and then I provide that feedback to our leadership in Washington on how that strategy is being played out on the ground. The visit here and seeing things with my own eyes has just reinforced all the great work that happens here at Nellis and why this is one of the most critical bases and one of the most critical missions that we do in our Department of Defense. So thank you to all the men and women that serve here. God bless them and their families, and keep up the great work, because I am highly impressed, and that's the report that's going back with me to Washington, D.C. When I joined the military in 1982, and this being my 35th year of service, I came in with an attitude that I wanted to grow and develop, that I wanted to be the best at what I could do. And initially in my career, I ran into people that you know, were kind of you know, they didn't like that kind of passion or that kind of pursuit for excellence. They were kind of moving at their own speed, and these are some of the leaders I had over me. They were moving at their own speed, and they wanted me to move at their speed. And so I was told so many times, you're never going to do this, or you won't do this, or you can't do this, that I just said, I'm not going to accept that as an answer. And I kept striving for excellence. I kept trying to be the best that I could be, not only because I wanted to be someone was at the top of the game of being a service member, but also I learned early, having been married my first year in the military, and now I've been married for 34 years to my wife, that the more I strove for excellence and the more I did good at what I was doing, I was getting promoted faster. And having more responsibility was great and everything, but more promotions meant that I was able to take care of my family. You know, most recently after my wife and I got married, we had our first child, and so I understood I had responsibilities and commitments that I had to meet up with at home. And so in order to make sure I was best preparing my family and taking care of them, I had to be the best service member I could be at work. So my advice to anybody out there when breaking down barriers, don't take no for an answer. You know, if somebody tells you you can't do something, for me, it was fuel for me to go and do that. You know, one specific example was in the United States Army, you know, the normal motto is only infantrymen can be Rangers. And I was an armor guy, you know, a crewman on armored vehicles, and people kept telling me, you can never go to Ranger school, you can never do that. And And I went and found a way to get to Ranger School, and I went and graduated and went straight through. And so now, you know, I'm part of a community now that is generally infantry type people, but now I'm an outsider that's part of that because I refuse to take no for an answer. And if you look where we're at in terms of women in combat roles now more than ever, breaking down this barrier is important to make sure that we understand that this is all about leveraging talent, okay? This isn't a social experiment. You know, 50% of, 51% of our population is women. And if there's plenty of talented women out there that can do things better than men, and that we ought to look at that and say, let's open it up to these combat fields to women and let them come in. And I will tell you, they're moving in and they're doing quite well. So the bottom line is, don't take no for an answer. Show people that you can do what they think you can't do, and that's all about striving for excellence.